This is a video about how to do a synthesis, how to synthesize your sources when you do a research project. So what is a synthesis? A synthesis is nothing more than blending your sources from your research. You do not want to just give your reader a series of summaries. This is what this source says. This is what the next source says. That's called an annotated bibliography. So when you're doing a research paper, your job as a researcher is to show that you understand and can take all the nuances of your topic and blend them together for your reader so that they read your paper and get the best of all the sources put together. So the way to do this is by synthesis. It's more than dropping quotes into your paper. It shows that you know your topic well and that you really understand your sources, and it shows the connections between them. So this image over here is sort of an idea. If you imagine this is source A and this is source B and this is source C, this would be your synthesis, right? This is where you put them together and you find the connections between the sources and then talk about what they mean. So here's how this plays out in your paper. I want you to imagine that you have 6 sources. I've numbered them article 1 through 6 here and color-coded them to make them easier for you. Now let's say we're writing a paper about college life, and that's your topic. And you read an article, and your first article talks about food and dorms and having a major. Those are the main topics in your first article. And then you have another article that talks about homesickness, friendship, and finding a major. Then you find another article and it talks about food and coursework and time management. Then article 4, time management, dorms and fraternities. Article 5 talks about parents, homesickness, and sororities. And then article 6 talks about dorms and clubs. So you have these 6 articles, and your job as a researcher is to determine what these articles have to do with one another and come up with major areas of interest in all of them and come up with some issues you want to talk about. So after reading all these articles, I have come up with 3 separate issues. The first one is life away from home. So I want to spend some time talking about what life is like away from home when you have starting college life. And so I would talk about the different experiences of adjusting about life away from home, and I would make sure to talk about food and dorms and parents and being homesick. And I would pull from this article and this article and this article in this discussion. Okay, this is synthesis. This is taking all of these articles and putting them together to synthesize. So then I have my second topic, which is education here. And I would talk about majors, coursework, time management, and I would pull from these 3 sources. Now notice I'm using the same source twice here. I used this in this one, and I used it here. That's because they talk about the same thing. And then my third one is a social life, and I would talk about, I would pull from these articles. So I talk about friends and fraternities and sororities, and then joining clubs. So this one also talks about dorms, so I could pull that one in here as well if I wanted to. So you can see how I'm pulling from multiple sources to discuss one topic. Now it's important that you understand that this does not mean this is one paragraph. If this is like your major header number 1, then this one would probably have, I would say, at least 3 topics. One would be dorms, so you're going to have a paragraph about living in the dorms. Another would be food, so you'd have at least 1 paragraph about food, and then you'd have another paragraph about your parents and being homesick. That could be another topic, right? So this would be at least 3 paragraphs under this section, and then I'd have another section, and this one would be about education. And this would have several paragraphs as well underneath this one. Okay, so I would talk about finding a major, managing my time, and the various coursework I had to have. So this would be another 3 paragraphs at least. And then I'd have another section and do the same thing. So these are your major headers. You have them stand out in your paper by all caps or underlining or what have you, and then have your various paragraphs underneath each one. This is what it means to synthesize. It's finding the connections between your articles and finding these topics in common and deciding what you want to discuss in your paper. That is synthesis.